What was it like being around DMX?
DMX was dangerous, man.
Straight up like that. Whoever don't like it, bring it. Bring it. I don't give a f. Bring it.
When the LA Crips tried to get DMX to check in, let's just say, they picked the wrong guy. DMX wasn't your regular chill rapper. He was bold, unpredictable, and totally not the type to play follow the leader. While other artists followed the unspoken rules to keep things smooth, DMX just did his own thing. What happened next? A bunch of intense moments and awkward run-ins that had people whispering for years. If you've ever wondered what happens when an unstoppable force meets a you better follow the rules kind of crowd, stick around, this one's a roller coaster. The checking in system. If you've ever wondered why some rappers and celebs suddenly get super low-key when they're in certain cities, especially Los Angeles, it might have something to do with this strange little ritual called checking in. Now it sounds innocent, like a polite, "Hey, I'm in town." But behind the scenes, it's reportedly been more of a not-so-friendly nudge, with strings and fees attached. According to insiders and even federal prosecutors, some entertainers have felt pressured to check in with certain local power players. Or else. One name that keeps popping up in this check-in saga is Eugene Big U Henley. For a while, Big U was viewed as the guy who turned his life around. A former street legend turned community leader and youth mentor. He even founded a non-profit, Developing Options, and was spotlighted in the FX documentary Hip Hop Uncovered. But the glow-up narrative hit a snag when federal prosecutors painted a not-so-rosy picture. As it turns out, Henley has been accused of running what officials call the Big U Enterprise, which they claim functioned like a mafia-style setup. The charges? Oh, just a casual mix of extortion, embezzlement, wire fraud, and more. Apparently, this enterprise asks celebs, rappers, athletes, you name it, to cough up cash or get approval before showing up to parties, filming ads, or attending high-profile events around LA. One witness told the FBI in 2022 that not checking in could lead to all sorts of unwelcome consequences, and prosecutors described it as Henley exerting purported control over the area. Henley's been in federal custody since March 19th, right after he posted a string of pretty bold Instagram videos. In one, he said, "I'm heading back to LA. This how they get you," and later added, "Ain't gonna be no real evidence." Prosecutors, however, weren't amused. They say those posts were less about setting the record straight and more about nudging witnesses to stay quiet. On paper, Henley's nonprofit received more than $2.3 million from LA's city grants, plus tens of thousands in donations from NBA players. But prosecutors claim a chunk of that money found its way into his personal accounts instead of helping the youth. What started as mentorship turned into mayhem, and this whole check-in mess has raised bigger questions about power plays in hip-hop. Because let's be real, nobody should need permission or protection fees just to do their job. DMX's dangerous reputation. In the wild ride that is hip-hop history, there's one name that always finds its way into the conversation when unforgettable legends are brought up: DMX. Let's be real. He wasn't just a rapper. He was a walking, barking, all-caps exclamation point. You didn't just hear DMX, you felt him. From the late 90s onward, he was the storm that rolled in without warning, leaving a trail of unforgettable tracks, iconic movie moments, and stories so wild they sound made up, but never are. Before he was a household name, DMX was already turning heads. Picture this. A wired shut jaw, yes, actually wired shut, from a recent fight. And he still managed to give such a powerful performance for Def Jam's Liar Cohen that the exec basically said, "Sign him immediately." That's not just dedication, that's classic DMX. No stage fright, no excuses, just raw energy. Then came 1998, and DMX didn't just enter the game. He blew the doors off. He dropped It's Dark and Hell is Hot, and before anyone could catch their breath, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood followed. Both hit #1 on the Billboard 200. Yup, 2 chart-topping albums in 1 year. And not just any artist pulled that off. DMX was the first living rapper to do it. The man made history while the rest of us were still trying to memorize the lyrics to Rough Riders' anthem. If you've ever seen the music video for Get At Me Dog, you already know it was a moment. Shot in black and white at the Tunnel, a legendary NYC club, the whole thing screamed, "No fluff, no frills." Just X, commanding the stage like a lion with a microphone. But he didn't stop there. When DMX stepped onto the big screen, he owned it. His acting debut as Tommy Buns Brown in Belly, instant cult classic. Starring opposite Nas, he held it down like he'd been in front of cameras his whole life. From there, it was movie after movie. Romeo Must Die, Exit Wounds, Cradle to the Grave, Never Die Alone. And somehow, he was just as magnetic on film as he was in the booth. Speaking of collaborations, DMX was everywhere. He dropped hits with some of the biggest names in both rap and R&B. Jay-Z fans will remember the iconic Money Cash Hose. And for those who like their DMX with a side of smooth, there's How's It Going Down with Faith Evans. He also teamed up with Sisqó, Aaliyah, and Mary J. Blige, proving he could bring the energy or the emotion depending on the vibe. Then came the Hard Knock Life Tour, a major moment not just for fans, but for hip-hop as a whole. Co-headlined by Jay-Z and DMX, with their crews Rough Riders and Rockefeller in tow, the tour was the kind of historic event that ends up in documentaries. And it did. Look up backstage. Fans got a close-up look at DMX in his element, feeding off the crowd, leading chants, and giving performances that left the arena echoing long after the show ended. If you thought the music and acting were the only highlights, think again. The behind-the-scenes stories? Absolute gems. Just ask Memphis Bleak, who shared a memory on Drink Champs that had people shaking their heads in disbelief. He talked about the time he saw DMX chase Maya Hay on a scooter during a party night in Miami, completely solo. Bleak was stunned that none of X's crew tried to stop him. "Whoever this guy is, he's official," Bleak said, still sounding impressed. Jermaine Dupri had his own "wait what" moment. In a video on Instagram, Dupri recounted a studio session where a journalist from The Source showed up to cover DMX, only for X to politely suggest the reporter hand over his things, with nothing more than a stare and his dog by his side. DMX basically asked him to run his stuff, using just the presence of his dog, Dupri recalled. The stunned reporter complied, and the story became one more addition to the ever-growing list of DMX tales. Even Fabulous chimed in under that post, writing, "Honestly, if you've ever really been around DMX, you have a wild DMX story. Long live the legend. And you know what? That says it all." Jay Pharoah, the comedian and impression genius, had his own run-in with X, literally. While performing with DMX, Pharoah caught an accidental punch to the face mid-show. "His knuckles were hard," he joked. No hard feelings, though. It was just DMX being 100% in the moment. No filter, no chill, just vibes. Beneath all the stories and headline moments, DMX was, at his core, a true performer. He poured every ounce of himself into his music. Grit, heart, joy, hurt, truth. His songs weren't just catchy, they were cathartic. You didn't just dance to them, you related to them. If that wasn't enough to cement his status, 2003 brought another record-breaking moment. Grand Champ debuted at number 1. Making DMX the first artist to score 5 straight number 1 album right out of the gate. No easy feat, even for someone with his talent. While other rap giants like Jay-Z, Kanye, and Drake would go on to dominate the charts, DMX had already secured his place as a trailblazer. When Revolt announced that DMX would headline Revolt House in Austin, Texas, on March 14, 2019, the buzz was real. Fans weren't just excited, they were reflective. Because DMX didn't just drop music or act in movies, he created moments. Unforgettable, sometimes unbelievable, always entertaining moments. DMX wasn't just a legend in the making, he was a legend in motion. A one-of-a-kind mix of fearless energy, raw honesty, and unshakable passion. And while there may be many stars in the hip-hop universe, there will never be another quite like him. Because let's face it, DMX didn't follow paths. He made his own trail and made sure everyone heard him coming. DMX's Encounters. DMX was a legend, not just in music, but in unforgettable moments that had people doing double takes and asking, did that really happen? His songs were raw, passionate, and full of fire. But those who crossed paths with him off stage had stories that made headlines and echoed through green rooms, gas stations, and comedy circles alike. Let's start with one of the juiciest tales, that 2015 gas station drama in New Jersey. A 21-year-old fan said he spotted DMX at an Exxon in Newark around 12:30 a.m. and decided to approach him for a quick fan moment. Seems innocent enough, right? But according to police reports, the mood allegedly shifted. After a brief convo about music, someone from DMX's entourage reportedly showed something that looked like a weapon and asked the fan to hand over his cash. The fan, not wanting any trouble, gave up $3,200, and that's when DMX allegedly swiped the cash and hopped into one of 4 sleek black Cadillac Escalades that peeled off into the night. The fan wasn't about to let that go, so he followed them long enough to catch a license plate. Here's where it gets interesting. DMX's longtime lawyer, Murray Richman, was having none of it. In an interview with the Los Angeles Times, he laughed off the claims, calling them completely baseless. According to Richman, X had just finished a performance at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center and was simply approached by eager fans who, oddly enough, were trying to hand him substances. He said no. He left, Richman explained. Do you really think for a moment he's going to hold up 2 people at a gas station? He added, basically calling the whole thing a misunderstanding. Oh, and for the record, no charges were filed. As if that wasn't enough, comedian Aries Spears has a story that could be pulled straight from a thriller movie. Spears said he once asked DMX to endorse his comedy CD. Sounds simple, but it quickly took a turn. DMX wasn't thrilled about Spears' impression of him, and according to Spears, he was led into a locker room, surrounded by about 30 people, with a bodyguard guarding the only exit. X questioned him about the impressions, pulled a razor blade out from under his tongue, yes, his tongue, and invited him to the hotel to hear the CD, with some very strong energy attached to that invite. Spears wisely declined. Just when you think it couldn't get more intense, Jay Pharoah comes in with his story. During a performance of Party Up, DMX got so into the moment that he accidentally socked Pharoah in the face while throwing air punches. His knuckles were hard, Pharoah said later, half laughing, half still shocked. Whether he was spitting bars or spinning wild moments into legend, DMX brought heat, heart, and a whole lot of unpredictability everywhere he went, and people are still talking about it. The DMX and Corrupt Feud. The late 90s were a dramatic time in hip-hop, but few sagas were as juicy and oddly poetic as the fallout between DMX and Corrupt. What started as whispers about a maybe too cozy connection between DMX and Foxy Brown quickly snowballed into a full-on lyrical showdown. Oh, and did we mention Foxy was engaged to Corrupt at the time? Yeah. Cue the dramatic music. Here's how the tea got spilled. Allegedly, during the Survival of the Illest tour, Eve, yes, that Eve from Rough Riders, dropped a bombshell on Corrupt, telling him that something was going on between DMX and Foxy. According to the gossip mill, Eve's news didn't exactly sit well. Foxy clapped back, claiming DMX merely had a harmless little crush. She even accused Eve of being messy. But, come on. When DMX and Foxy started popping up together more often, the rumors weren't exactly dying down. Things started getting even more eyebrow-raising when DMX dropped Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood in December 1998. The track Bring Your Whole Crew caught everyone's attention, not because it was a bop, but because it felt personal. Fans pointed out some lyrical jabs, a mention of the Crips, which Corrupt was repping, and something about a fake pit, which sure sounded like a side-eye at Thaw Dog Pound's whole dog-themed branding. Coincidence? Maybe. But the timing had people talking. Corrupt, clearly not loving the turn of events, went straight to the studio and cooked up what would become one of the spiciest diss tracks of that era. Calling out names. And when we say he didn't hold back, we mean it. Muthaf, KD, Muthaf, KM, only X I know is Exhibit or RBX, he rapped. Ouch. Not only was that a swipe at DMX, but he dragged Irv Gotti and Ja Rule into it too, just for good measure. The message? DMX had officially crossed the line. DMX didn't pull a tit for tat by name, but anyone paying attention knew he had something to say. His response came disguised under an energetic, horn-filled anthem that most fans were busy dancing to at the time. Party Up, Up in Here. The track, released in 1999 from the album, And Then There Was X, seemed like a fun, yell-along song on the surface. But once you peeled back the layers, it was clear X had come to speak. The story behind Party Up makes it even better. According to Swizz Beatz, who produced the track, DMX almost didn't record it. Swizz told K-Day that X thought the beat was too cheerful. At that time, the beat was too party and happy, Swizz said. But after some convincing, DMX added his signature fire. And voila, the party track was born. Except it was also a masterclass in musical subtext. Lines like, "You whack, you twisted, your girl's a you broke, the kid ain't yours and everybody know," hit very different once fans tied them back to the Foxy drama. And when he followed it up with, "I'm tired of weak fellas whining over people that don't belong to them," it was hard not to hear the not-so-subtle shade. It wasn't just wordplay, it was storytelling with a punch. But how do we know it was actually aimed at Corrupt? Well, enter social media. Gail Gotti, Corrupt's ex-wife, spilled some confirmation tea online. "We all know he was talking about Corrupt," she wrote. She added that Corrupt was upset because Foxy was allegedly seen out and about in New York with DMX. So, he dropped calling out names. In response, DMX dropped Party Up, Gail explained. Exhibit, who got name-checked in Corrupt's diss, also chimed in during the Effective Immediately podcast. "What was crazy was when I found out that Party Up was the answer to calling out names," he said. He even suggested Drake should have taken a similar approach during his own music feuds, joking that he should have made a party up. Just when you thought the drama had peaked, Foxy stirred the pot even more by featuring DMX on her January 1999 album China Doll. The track Dog and a Fox included X, something that Corrupt apparently found downright heartbreaking. According to him, he and Foxy were supposed to share that track as a duet. Instead, she brought in the one rapper Corrupt felt betrayed by the most. Talk about salt in the wound. Let's not forget the music video. Directed by Director X, the video for Party Up was filmed at the Frostbank building in Galveston, Texas. In it, DMX finds himself caught up in a chaotic case of mistaken identity during a bank fiasco. Lights flashing, sirens blaring. It was like a visual metaphor for the track's frantic energy and messy backstory. Even though the lyrics were packed with pointed jabs, the song took on a life of its own. It became the anthem for sports victories and celebrations. The Lakers played it after winning the 2001 NBA championship. The Philadelphia Eagles made it a touchdown ritual. It even found a home on video game soundtracks. Not bad for a diss track in disguise. Still, DMX made it clear that his intentions weren't just about catchy hooks. "I didn't make it for the club," he told GQ. "The beat is for the club. I just spit some real stuff to it." Classic X, giving us gritty truths wrapped in beats you can't help but dance to. Party Up ended up being so much more than just a comeback. It was a creative flex, a story within a song, and a reminder that DMX could turn even the messiest drama into musical gold. "It took me 13 years to get a record deal," he once said. "You're gonna get more than a couple of albums out of me." And get them we did, full of fire, honesty, and the kind of energy that still makes speakers shake. Whether you were siding with DMX or Corrupt back then, one thing's for sure. This was a moment in hip-hop that no one could ignore. And thanks to Party Up, it became legendary, not just for the beat, but for the story behind it. The aftermath and reconciliation. In the world of hip-hop, where personalities are larger than life and lyrics often say what others are too shy to admit, beef comes with the territory. But once in a while, a long-standing feud doesn't end in a viral face-off or a media meltdown. It just quietly dissolves. One of the most surprising makeups in rap? The back and forth between DMX and Corrupt, which started messy but ended with mutual respect and maybe even a little peace. Let's rewind to the late 90s, when the whole thing started brewing. Corrupt was engaged to Foxy Brown, and all seemed well, until rumors started swirling that Foxy and DMX might have been spending a little too much time in the studio. In 1999, Foxy dropped a track called Dog and a Fox on her album China Doll, featuring none other than DMX. Fans and insiders definitely raised their eyebrows. Corrupt, clearly not impressed, hit back with a hidden diss track on his Streets Is a Mutha album called Calling Out Names. And no, he wasn't subtle, at all. He famously rapped, "The only X I know is Exhibit and RBX," which felt like a musical side-eye if there ever was one. Years later, Corrupt opened up about what was going through his head at the time. On The Breakfast Club, he admitted, "I got offended. I did. I got offended at both of them." Apparently, folks were calling him left and right, saying things like, "Rick, you know Foxy and DMX was in the studio." But it wasn't just music that was raising eyebrows. According to Corrupt, it was everything outside the studio too. He recalled how asking Foxy about it didn't go well. When a person is defensive when you ask a simple question, and they go on fire, it's self-explanatory, he said. What really added salt to the wound was that Corrupt and Foxy had supposedly planned a duet called The Dog and the Fox. When she went ahead and did the track with DMX instead, it felt personal. Then came Nas's comment in XXL, hinting that maybe Foxy should be with someone from New York. That's when Corrupt felt like the whole East Coast was laughing at him. "I just felt like New York was picking on me," he shared. "Everybody picking on me, I'm just going to go back to California, and I'm going to give everybody a piece of my mind." Give them a piece of his mind, he did, but not without a little warning. Before dropping Calling Out Names, Snoop Dogg reportedly told him, "Don't do it, Corrupt. Things are just settling down, and it's not going to be a good look." But Corrupt didn't back down. "It wasn't for record sales. It wasn't to do anything but let people know I don't like you," he said. "It wasn't a hip-hop battle. It was about real life." DMX, for the most part, kept things cool. He never dropped a direct diss track in return, but fans speculated that the global hit, Party Up, Up in Here, included some lines that might have been playful jabs. Still, when he was asked about it during a press event at the American Music Awards, DMX brushed it off completely. According to those in the room, he claimed there was no problem with Corrupt at all. Some thought he was downplaying it. Others thought he was just over the whole thing. Corrupt seemed to mellow out too, kind of. In 2001, he dropped Space Boogie, Smoke Odyssey, featuring the track Just Don't Give a F, where he sounded more focused on moving forward than picking another fight. But by 2005, on Against the Grain, he dropped Speak on It, which included the line, "DMX ain't the new Tupac." It wasn't an all-out diss, but it definitely raised a few eyebrows. Then, nothing. The feud fizzled out without any major explosions. Years passed. New artists rose, trends shifted, and the drama slowly faded into the background. Then came 2017. At LAX airport of all places, Corrupt ran into DMX. It could have been awkward, but instead, it was surprisingly chill. On The Breakfast Club, Corrupt told the story with a smile. "I went to go talk to him, and we've been cool ever since," he said. "Come to find out he was real cool. We had a great conversation. We've been flying it out ever since." Just like that, what once felt like a never-ending grudge was over. No press conference, no dramatic Instagram post. Just a quiet, real-life moment between two men who had outgrown their drama. And while fans didn't get a formal peace treaty, that airport meeting said enough. Looking back, even Corrupt admitted that calling out names probably wasn't the wisest move. In an interview with Hip Hop DX, he explained, "It kind of cut me in a negative way, but it also helped shape the career of the person." He went on to say that if he could do it all over, he might have left that track off the album entirely. Nobody wants to be around all that negative stuff, he reflected. At the end of the day, Corrupt's goal was never fame for fame's sake. "All I wanted to be was known as one of the greatest rappers on the planet," he said. And according to fans, and even legends like Biggie, who once called him one of the best freestylers he'd heard, Corrupt earned that title. Yeah, the DMX and Corrupt feud had its fair share of awkward lines, misunderstood moments, and hip-hop history. But it also ended with two artists choosing conversation over competition. If there's anything to take away from this, sometimes the best diss track is the one you never record, and the best closure comes when you least expect it, like maybe at an airport terminal. So, what do you think about this topic? Let us know in the comments, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, check out the 2 videos on screen that might just become your next favorites, and don't forget to subscribe for more exciting content coming soon.